Hey, Jayson here. I'm going to take a crack at some of your questions. We've got a little build up here. Remember, you can always send your questions to info@relationshipschool.com. That's probably the best way for you to get a question answered. And in the subject line, put podcast question or something like that. Okay. My disclaimer is always, I lack context when I answer questions sometimes, but I do my best to help you. And Ellen's not here today, which limits the answer you're going to get, because I think when Ellen's here, our answers are together really robust. So let's start off with Grace. She left a voice question, and I'm just going to play it, and then I'll answer it.
Hi, Jayson. My name's Michaela, and I have a question about trauma responses. So basically, if I'm in an intimate situation and I have to tell my partner no, I immediately have like a PTSD reaction and cry and shake and have to calm down and recenter myself. And I'm able to communicate that it has nothing to do with my current partner. But it's still, painful that this happens and is something I would like to change. So I'm hoping that can give me some tips on navigating when you know the cause of the trauma. You can identify when you're having a traumatic reaction, but you can't yet prevent that reaction from happening. Any insight you could provide would be great. Thanks so much.
Okay, wow, really vulnerable question from Michaela there. Thank you. And, the way I understood the question is you're in an intimate moment, you're saying no, your body goes into kind of a shaky trauma response. And that implies there's some sort of sexual trauma history or maybe even just touch trauma history. I like that you have the awareness that you have a good partner and it's not about your partner. It's probably historical. So you're already halfway there. I think it would be really amazing if your partner, when you say no and you're shaking, could hold you or like physically while you shake. Because you're going to have a corrective experience, right? In a safe setting. And that's one idea. Another idea is if that feels too intense, to have your partner stand or sit next to you or lie next to you as you shake and say reassuring things like, I'm right here. I respect your no. I honor your no. And I'm here with you. That would be really cool. Now, that's if you wanted to do it in the bedroom or with your current partner. Another way, of course, is to go to do some trauma therapy with EMDR or brain spotting, perhaps, or maybe even havening, which I've recently heard about, where you go into the traumatic memory, right, with a resource and you titrate. And I think you can get some traction there as well. I do think one of the most powerful places to heal our relational traumas is in relationship with our intimate partners. That's why marriage and long-term relationship provide a container for healing together. And, dating doesn't quite do it. A lot of open doors doesn't quite do it. But when we seal the exits and we say, let's heal together, there's something really profound that can happen when we do that. So those are my thoughts. Thanks for the question, Michaela, and good luck. I imagine it's been a while since you asked this question, so maybe you've already made a ton of progress, but hopefully this helps someone else. So thanks for your vulnerability there. Okay, this question is from a person on YouTube. Again, a lot of great YouTube questions and comments. This person says, they don't have a name. I definitely see myself in a codependent relationship, but I'm the one who needs fixing. In quotes, except I don't have some overt problem like depression, anxiety, or addictions. My partner sees me as someone who is emotionally immature and a terrible listener and a communicator. His number one biggest complaint is that I don't understand him. He constantly tries to fix me and be my teacher looking down on his student. Can you give me advice on how to advocate for mutuality in the relationship? this sounds terrible to me. I would not want to be in that kind of partnership where I feel condescended toward, patronized, and told that, I'm doing it wrong over and over. That's terrible. So you're with a partner who's trying to have the upper hand and is very ineffective in his communication style and very arrogant and doesn't sound like is very receptive to feedback. So I don't think you're going to get to mutuality unless he opens the door to receiving feedback from you and takes a piece of humble pie and eats it. Empathizes with your experience and says, wow, I'm really hard to be with. I know, gosh, I keep trying to be above you and you're below me. And isn't that self-righteous of me? That's got to feel really bad over there. So in other words, there's another issue going on here in your relationship. What you're speaking about is a symptom of a larger and deeper dynamic that needs to be addressed. So if I was working with the two of you together, that's what I would be focusing on, is how he's treating you and then how you're not standing up for yourself. Okay. Erotic coaching left me a message on Instagram. I'm wondering if you could briefly explain something to point me to some resources on privacy versus secrets in a marriage, and transparency with things like phones. What's healthy? What's normal? What's too much? What passes on to an investment being distant and suspect? I'm not sure I understand that part, but should both partners be okay with the other one having access to their phone? Should they not have access, but should no question be off limits? Is it okay to consider privacy if they refuse to discuss or answer any questions? Casual ones about their phone, etc. What rules and boundaries? Okay. So my wife and I could grab each other's phones at any moment and look through them. I totally trust my wife, so I know she's not up to anything fishy, so I actually have no reason to look at her phone. But if I wanted to, she would hand me her phone and I would look through it. And so I live inside of a high trust relationship where she can look through my computer, she can look through my phone, she can look through my wallet. I don't care. She can have access to any of it. Because I'm not doing anything that I wouldn't want her to see. If I was doing something I wouldn't want her to see, that's when it becomes an issue. And then I have to ask, why am I doing something I wouldn't want my wife to see? What does that say about my marriage? Or what does that say about our trust? Or, right? So, people hide, if you will, because they're in shame and they feel scared to be accepted with whatever their behavior is. They're not going to be accepted, that they're going to be hated, judged, criticized, and maybe the other person would actually leave them. So they hide it, right? And this behavior for a lot of us started when we were kids. We'd get in trouble if we did something out of line, or, if we grew up in a religious environment. There was all kinds of rules, right? So aim for high trust relationships where you could hand each other phones and it's just not a big deal. I was working with a couple recently where the phones were a big deal, and I think one partner was resistant to give the phone up to the other partner. And when they finally did, sure enough, there was a barrage of texts from an ex-boyfriend, an ex-partner that were very hurtful to read to the current partner, of course, right? So there's also, I don't know if it's a statute of limitations, but if you're in a new relationship 2 years in, let's say, and things are getting really serious and you really love each other and it's full commitment and maybe marriage is in your cards, but you have texts from an ex on your phone from 4 years ago, and your partner grabs that phone and looks through those old texts, they might get their feelings hurt, right? But then it's like, well, why are you not trusting that I love you and I'm here? That was 4 years ago. This is now. And I don't stay in touch with that person anymore. Well, then why are there messages on your phone? Well, how many of us actually go through and clean up our phones? And I have so many ridiculous contacts from my life a long time ago, and I don't delete them because I'm lazy. If I'm trying to hide something, I might delete something, right? But they're just all there. You could look through my phone and find a bunch of random shit from years ago. So we have to hold each other in a good way here, and we're human, and And we want to aim for high trust, where I can hand you my phone and it's just not a big deal, whatever's on it. And if it is, there's hurtful things on the phone, then it's an opportunity, right? It's always an opportunity to work through conflict, communicate better, listen to each other, really try to understand each other, and become stronger through whatever gets shown on the phone. Okay, question from Jane. Jayson, I'm loving your book, Getting to Zero. The dilemma is the other partner doesn't want to change. I would love it if you had a cheat sheet in the back with some phrases or words of wisdom that are a place to start dialoguing when the other person doesn't know how to grow. What does this person who's reading the book say to the person who hasn't read the book to get them to start? Okay. So again, Jane, you're speaking to a symptom of a larger problem. The problem is you've chosen someone who is not interested in growing. And then so why are you sort of arrogantly, presumptively putting your values onto this person? Because they're going to feel judged and criticized, right? And it's not going to feel good. And the more you try, the more they're going to dig their heels in, saying like, fuck you can't, like, I'm not going to be who you want me to be, basically, which is really wise for them to push back. So when, I know a lot of you listeners are with partners who are not interested in listening to this podcast, and that can be okay if you two are in a great relationship and you have tools to work through, communicate better, to work through conflict, etc. Fine. You don't need to read my book. But your agenda to change your partner falls under the category of just trying to change your partner. And I did actually write a chapter in my book on working with a resistant or reluctant partner. We can, remember, make reasonable requests to ask our partner to change a little bit, but this falls outside of that reasonable request. It's like you're trying to like get in there and almost, anyway, it doesn't feel good to me. So I'm going to say your choice of partner is what the issue is. You've chosen someone who's not down with what you're down with. Go choose someone else. Okay. Annette, I was listening to your podcast in the middle of the night about men and how they were treated when they were young. Okay. Where can you, there's so much to say on this. I'm not going to answer this one. It's not even a question. You're just saying, where can I find your story? I tell my story a lot in my book, as well as in a lot of live classes and trainings. I tell my story briefly. Ellen and I also tell our story, which includes my story, in one of our relationship upgrade courses. Okay, here's a couple questions about apologizing. One is from Daniel. He's asking, there was a video I did of how to apologize, and I put it on YouTube, and it's really good, I think. It's my wife and I and my friend Judd kind of role-playing the proper apology. And it's a great video. If you haven't seen it, just Google how to apologize, Jayson Gaddis, YouTube, whatever. And is he saying, do you write about this in my book? Yes, ad nauseum. I write about the benefits of an apology and the limitations of an apology, because a lot of people just apologize too fast to try to, absolve themselves of any kind of discomfort. And I don't recommend that. Joe is asking, I try not to have any conflict in bed where we practice our intimacy. Do you have thoughts on this? Yeah, I think that's a good rule. It's sort of like people being in bed talking about work, and they're laying there naked and they're talking about their clients, or they're talking about very intimate details about someone else. That can sometimes just feel a little invasive in the bed space. Yeah. So again, it's just an opportunity for a conversation, Joe, with you and your partner, saying, hey, what are we cool talking about in the bedroom, and what's not a good idea because it creates tension in me or tension in you, or it creates me to go into my head and think about work or get stressed. What are our boundaries? Each couple has to decide what that is for them. Okay. Rebecca is saying, my ex told me at one point in the relationship that the thought of considering how someone else is feeling was exhausting to him. Oof. That's a bummer. I really wish I had paid more attention to that. In retrospect, it seems like it was a confession that he doesn't really care about other people's feelings, or at least sees it as a burden. How can you possibly have a healthy relationship with someone like that? It's very hard. When you take emotions out of an intimate partnership like a marriage, it's like driving a car with no tires, or it's like trying to fly with no wings. There's just no lubrication for the connection and the intimacy. Men, in particular, have a steep learning curve here that we have to learn how to feel our feelings if we want beautiful, deep intimacy. If we just want sex and we want to move on and we want someone to live with, you don't need emotions. But then you got to find a woman who will tolerate that kind of bullshit, which plenty of people do. Lots of people do. And I just think if you want the most profound love and partnership, you've got to bring your heart and your emotions to the game, to the arena. And that's just been true. And whenever I'm not in my emotions and my heart, my marriage is not as vibrant, alive, juicy, connected, etc. And that often happens not because I don't know how to feel, but because I fell into my old strategy when I'm stressed of going into my head, protecting my heart, trying to get shit done, like that kind of vibe. And a lot of us are in that camp. Intimacy is a whole nother language that we've got to, we don't have to learn, but I strongly encourage you to learn. Any of you non-feelers, learn how to feel, because it's going to change the game for you. How do you learn how to feel? You can go to a therapist or a coach and have them teach you, and you can kind of do a lot of here and now experiments. You can go to workshops. You can come to one of our trainings. By the end of one of our trainings, you're definitely going to be feeling stuff. So lot of ways, right? One more, back to apology. And Ellen and I did this post about, I did this like short reel about mistakes people make when they're communicating. And one of them was, and it's sort of like a little bit of stonewalling, or when you mess up in a relationship and you say that wasn't my intention. I've spoken about that here before. This person is, I think Genevieve is asking, what if it really wasn't your intention and you see how it was wrong and then you apologize? Okay. It's okay if it works. I found that never works in my marriage. And with the clients and students I work with, it rarely works to say, oops, that wasn't my intention to like step on your toe or hurt your feelings. Of course it wasn't your intention. That's sort of a given. And sometimes actually it was your intention. You were being an asshole. But either way, it's better and more effective to delete that wasn't my intention from your hard drive, and instead say things like, I did that and I can see that it caused pain over there. Ouch. Wow. That must hurt. And it makes sense that you're upset. That's a much better move than that wasn't my intention. Or quickly, I'm sorry. Okay. Own, validate, empathize are always going to pay dividends way more than that wasn't my intention or I'm sorry really quick. Yeah. Okay, these are a few answers to your questions. Thanks, guys. Ellen, I'll get Ellen in here next time, and we'll go a little further. And I'm just really grateful for you who are listening. We've got some exciting things coming up here at the Relationship School. Make sure you're on our email list. You can sign up for the newsletter at anywhere, really. relationshipschool.com/newsletter is a good place. Okay, thanks for being the kind of person you are that cares about this stuff. If you're in pain relationally and you need immediate support, our coaches can help you. I've trained almost 100 coaches at this point, relationship coaches that are amazing humans, and they have the chops to help you get through this hard time, this hard moment you're going through. Or if you want to actually hire a coach and have someone in your corner to continue to up-level your communication skills, your listening skills, your conflict skills, these folks are incredible. Okay. So all you need to do is go to relationshipschool.com/MRC. That stands for My Relationship Coach. So relationshipschool.com/MRC. All right. If you want immediate, direct, effective help, check them out.